Hot Cares Christmas, spreading joy through Joburg on Hot 1027.
Hot Cares Christmas here on Hot 1027 on the Big Joburg Drive. Now, this afternoon, we have got a story which isn't going to make you cry, but it is going to make you sit there and go, wow.
Might make you cry.
It might, but I think it's going to be more of a
tears of happiness, yeah.
It's because this is a great story, it really is. And as you know, with Hot Cares, what we try and do is look at everyone out there, everyone who needs help, everyone who's helping. And this is one of those stories where someone is actually helping. I've got in the studio with me, which is unusual, but we've got two people in the studio. We've got Saul Fox. Hello, Saul.
Hello.
And we've got his dad with us as well, Sean Fox. Hello, Sean.
Hi, Simon.
It is nice to have you here. And when I read through this story yesterday, I was like, this guy is unbelievable. Saul, you are 17 years old.
Indeed.
Let's just go into the story if we can a little bit. The school bought a 3D printer not long ago for some of the boys to use. 3 boys got to use this 3D printer.
Indeed.
Okay. Why do you want to use a 3D printer?
Well, I'm always liking new tech. I love new tech. It's if you give me a computer, a keyboard, anything, I'm just going to play with it, possibly take it apart,
yes,
and then try to put it back together again, not always successfully.
So Saul, once you started playing around with the 3D printer, what's the first thing that struck you and what appealed to you about messing around with this 3D printer?
Kind of just the fact that I'd always thought of things like injection molding, where it's you have one set of dies, you can make one thing 1,000 times. Thus, you can make one thing 1,000 times, or you can make 1,000 things one time each, or you can make 1,000 things 1,000 times. It's just endlessly customizable and endlessly perfect to what you need.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with your part, you print it again, and if it's still got a problem, you do it again. And I mean, the first time I printed something, I sat there and I watched the machine as it went around printing it, and I was just fascinated. And it's just, how do you start with nothing there, and 2 hours later, there's this whole thing.
An animate object, yeah.
Now, you tell us, because you started actually sort of dabbling in prosthetics.
Yeah.
How did that begin?
So I was on a site called Thingiverse, where they have basically just downloadable models that you can print.
Yeah.
And I found this thing which is like a Freddy Krueger finger that you can control a bit. And I thought, well, I have fingers and I'm making my fingers longer. What if I just got someone who didn't have fingers and did the same kind of thing? And I did a bit of research, and I found this community called Enable, and found out there are other people doing this, but no one's doing it here, really. There was no activity here. And so I saw an opportunity, and I decided to take it, and from there it became this.
Well, before we go into this, let's just quickly talk about the company. You say it's Enable. It's a group of people called Enable?
Yeah.
And they're open source. Maybe, Sean, you can tell us a little bit about open source and what they do.
So the idea behind open source, it started in computer software. And it's basically people doing things because they can. A lot of nerds will do things to prove that they can do it without any expectation of reward. And a lot of it becomes altruistic. People will do things and then just say, here, use it. And that evolved into something called the shareware license, in which case, if you feel that like you get value out of something, then you tip the person who created it.
Right.
But the whole idea behind open source is you create something that other people can then build on. It's never for profit, and the terms of the open source license, this is actually something that's internationalized. For example, Wikipedia works on the open source license.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to take profit off of somebody else's work is the basic idea behind it. So
right.
The open source license, even if you contribute to it, you're not allowed to make profit behind or off of what other people have done.
So
off of the results of the open source license.
Sure. So Saul finds in his research, he finds prosthetic hands, which is being done and is being done other parts of the world, and thinks, I can make this better, right?
Well, not as much thinks I can make it better, but thinks I can spread it here. Because thinking about South Africa, we've got a lot of people who can't afford these kinds of things, and shack fires and things like that. There's rarely a space for prosthetics in this country.
I mean, I've seen here you went to orthopedic surgeons. You didn't just decide, oh, well, I've found something in open source online. I'm going to make it with my 3D printer. You went and spoke to Dr. Bradley Rabin, an orthopedic surgeon. He helped you understand, right?
Yeah, so he especially helped us go the right directions. Because we were kind of, well, I don't know where to go here. Who do I talk to? Who's going to give me the right opinions? And he sent us to a hand OT. He sent us really down the path of realizing this is not so much an orthopedic side thing. It's something that is really in the interaction with people. It's not something that a surgeon will help us with, but a hand OT and physiotherapy is where we need to focus, and pushed us towards realizing, well, how does a hand work? How does this thing grab things?
Yeah.
And realizing that helped us understand the design, start improving it, start thinking about, well, what can be done better? Why is the thumb at this weird angle? So the way it works is you have three pieces. You have the palm and the hand, you have the forearm, and you have the bicep.
Right.
And I mean, I can hold it up to the camera here. So what you have is when the bicep bends,
Yes.
it pulls on some strings, which are just fishing line, and because you're making the path of the fishing line longer, that pulls on where they are connected on the other side, which is the fingers. And so when you pull on those wires, the fingers will bend. And then you have some dental elastics, so when you let go, it snaps back up.
Amazing. Now, there's also there's a lot of need for this, because there's lots of children, there's lots of people in South Africa who don't have enough money to actually go and buy a prosthetic, and the South African government and the medical fraternity as a whole don't actually concentrate on doing hands and arms. They more look at legs, if I'm not mistaken, or lower limbs. Am I correct in saying that?
Correct.
So ideally, because we're going to make a phone call now, ideally, what you would like to be able to do is what?
To be able to provide these things to people who need them on a national scale.
How long does it take you to make a hand for someone like you've got in front of us and you've shown on camera?
Well, with the setup we're going to get, which includes 2 printers, we can get it printed, assembled, and so it actually gets thermoformed. Some of the stuff that's bent gets printed flat, and we put it in hot water and you bend it. We can do it in about 12 hours.
Wow.
So Saul, what do you need?
2 printers, something to make water about 100 degrees, and the rest of the basic materials. And that's about it.
Okay. And just so we can get a scale, because, I mean, to actually make one of these, once you've got all of that stuff, right, to make one, I mean, I know you're not a businessman. You said you weren't a businessman, so I'm going to ask your dad this. Sean, how much is it going to cost to make one of these?
So they're entirely customizable for size. So we can scale this for a 6-year-old all the way up to the one in front of Saul, which is actually intended and has been given to a 15-year-old, and a fairly bulky 15-year-old at that. So the price varies a little bit, but purely on the materials cost, we're talking in the region of 600 to 850.
So we're talking hundreds, not thousands.
No. I mean, an arm prosthetic, a medical proper from one of the big medical companies, starts at about 50,000 Rand, and we're talking about under 1,000.
So this is a no-brainer, my friends. It's a no-brainer, right?
Absolutely.
All right. I think we're going to make a phone call this afternoon here on Hot 1027.
Hello.
Hello, is that Jacqueline?
Hi, Parky. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Jacqueline is from the Dis-Chem Foundation, and we have got with us Saul Fox, who's 17 years old, and told us the amazing story about how he came to, well, making prosthetic hands, and of course that are attached to your arms. It all started, by the way, with him dismantling his dad's Blu-ray, TV players and so on and so forth. But he's progressed from, sort of taking apart the things at home, and he's now obviously trying to make good. And we've got his dad, Saul Fox, with us. I know that you know the story, and I'd like to, if I can this afternoon, Jacqueline, let you say hello to them and just tell them what you're going to do from the Dis-Chem Foundation.
Thank you, Parky. Well, I was absolutely blown away by Sean and his initiative and his caring for the community, which is right in line with the Dis-Chem Foundation, of course. And I've had the pleasure of meeting his wonderful father, who's encouraged him all the way. And the Dis-Chem Foundation, with Hot Cares, would like to give him 65,000 Rand to get this off the ground so that he can continue to help people.
That is absolutely fantastic. So if we can confirm that, and Saul, just for your for you to listen again, basically a laptop, printer, software, fingertips, various hardware items, medical foam and other accessories totaling the amount of 60,000 Rand is what you're going to donate, right?
65,000 Rand.
65,000 Rand.
Yes.
So there you go. It's taken care of. It's sorted out. How does that feel, Saul?
That is awesome. That is everything we could have asked for and more.